Hello, and welcome to Warrior Supercast. I'm Jason Grzgorek, and very fortunate to be a part of the Wintonwood School District and giving those information to the superstars of the district. Sitting next to me is Dr. Terry Holden, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning at Wintonwood City Schools. I'm very fortunate you have us here today.
Hi, Jason. Thank you.
No problem. As you can see, we've got a large panel with us today in discussing the continuation of the talk about project-based learning in the New Tech Network. I've got from both ends, both middle school and the intermediate schools with me today. We'll start with the intermediate side here with Mr. Day, who's the principal. Mm-hmm. At least I can get that correct today. Yep. And of course, Kate Robinson is a teacher. What do you teach over in the intermediate?
I teach 5th grade math.
We've had plenty of math teachers coming onto the podcast, and we've enjoyed each and every conversation, so I'm sure you have some great different techniques that you're learning as well. And then on the middle school side, I have Principal Doug Sanker over on the end. Hello. And Adib Dixon, I'm sorry, and you are a teacher at the middle school. What are you teaching over at the middle school?
7th grade social studies.
Interesting, social studies. So I can't wait to get in contact with what's going on when the teachers get into play in this. So let's start out, of course, with this in the rollout with New Tech and what you're experiencing or what you will be experiencing when this happens. Let's start with the intermediate school because these are the younger kids mm-hmm. getting that first crack at this. Mr. Day, what do you foresee as the new hurdles and or the new excitement that will be going into the intermediate school?
There's a lot of excitement at the intermediate school from the staff point of view, for sure. When we discussed rolling this out, they want the learning to be more authentic, and that's what this is going to be. So people are very, very excited about that part. This is going to be different. You know, it's going to be completely different than what the kids are used to, and that's going to take some time. We know that part. It's going to take some time for the teachers as well. That's also part of the New Tech ways. You are learning together, you know. So that kind of goes into the culture of the project-based learning that we're endeavoring. But really, there's a lot of excitement. Again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of excitement going around the building just based on this project-based learning.
Let's get into the teaching aspect of it. I mean, here you are. You're getting told this is the new curriculum. This is what you'll be teaching. How do you approach it, and how are you approaching it with your students?
Well, at first when we heard about it, it was obviously something new to us. We knew that the high school, the AGS program specifically, had done it before, and so we had tons of questions since then, and getting our own research by going to the website or even talking to each other collaboratively. We're excited about having a 2-person team where we've gone from a 3-person team. That does bring some challenges, as Mr. Day said. I now am going to be teaching math and science, but it becomes more authentic because they overlap. So whereas in isolation sometimes where students seem like, oh man, I'm never going to use this, it's only math, I don't like math, I now can show like math and science go together and here's why, and it's going to be all at the same time, and so our lessons will overlap, whereas before it might have been something that was separate.
Sure. You've both used the word authentic. What drives you to use that word? I mean, I've heard many different usage of the word, and as well as many different definitions for New Tech. You use one that's most different from the previous podcast, and that's authentic.
Well, I could just speak from personal experience. When I was growing up as a kid, not much has changed, you know, and I'm not as old as some people here, sorry, but not much has changed about that. And I even remember thinking when I was a kid, when am I going to use this in any subject area that I was in? And that this way of teaching debunks all that.
Sure.
You know, the kids actually work through problems themselves. You're working with the teacher through it. The teacher doesn't have to be directing everything. They're really more facilitating the role than it is like director all the time. And I think that's a big deal to the kids too. So it's more collaborative in that nature. So I think the authentic piece is they actually really get to see where this really applies to their real life and where these problems do exist and how they can kind of help solve these problems.
Jason, I
Sure.
think that both Ms. Robinson and Mr. Day touched upon something very important, and that is students remember all of that content if they need to use it for a specific task or a specific reason. So through project-based learning, it's really provided in this just-in-time format. Okay. So if Ms. Robinson is working with students on a science project, perhaps it has to do with water conservation and chemicals and that, any math that they need to know to do those calculations, they're going to remember because it has a specific purpose for them.
Sure. I think you hit on something, and I'm going to go with that science aspect of it. It sounds like you can be more current in current affairs. The water conservation and water being a perfect example, how it's affecting, let's say, Flint, Michigan, and people may not understand totally, but by bringing it into a project-based learning, is that something, or am I completely off the wall?
I see authentic meaning like they create their work, whereas before it's the teacher having an outline, giving a worksheet, saying you have to do this, still letting them work collaboratively. But in this aspect, like you said, they can recognize a problem and even go through the scientific method and say, like, what am I going to do to help solve it? So then the student takes more ownership of the learning versus this is what Ms. Robinson wanted you to accomplish, here it is, and this is what the final product should look like. I don't know what the final project is going to look like. I don't know what questions are going to come up. The students have that opportunity in developing and creating and owning more of it than in typical schooling that we have now.
Are you seeing that the same way in the middle school?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're approaching this as an entire teaching staff as coming up with our middle school in a project-based learning mode is indeed our project-based learning. This is the unit that we are structuring. So we're looking at the outcomes that we want our children to have, the characteristics of strong teaching within that project-based learning units, as well as crafting those authentic, real-world, applications of the knowledge that kids are learning.
Sure. And I'm sure that, again, depending on each subject, and again, we've had teachers from various spectrums, are you looking at something different to change social studies? Because, again, social studies can be a very broad topic, but at the same time can be very daunting to some and intriguing to others.
No, I would agree that the authentic part is something that we want to instill in our teaching. However, I think that we get to empower autonomy within our students to take their learning deeper. Students sometimes want teachers to stand and deliver, but I've noticed that they've become so much more engaged and so much more responsive when they get to take responsibility for their own learning. I mean, you can see it in just a simple Google click. Students will click on one link after another until they get their fill of knowledge. And when we give them that power with learning, social studies, science, math, you can see it spiral.
Dr. Holden, I'm sorry.
Oh, and I was just going to say Mr. Dixon will be involved in an integrated classroom where he'll be team teaching with a language arts teacher, which will kind of, build upon the capacity of both teachers, the creativity of both teachers, so that the students are kind of challenged in both of those areas.
What I was going to bring up with Dr. Holden is that, are you seeing that since we're getting ready for the younger kids to latch onto this, we've seen the older kids already devour this immensely. Do you feel that those who have younger siblings are eager to go, oh, we get this next? Are you seeing that triculation?
I think we're seeing that a bit, but I think overall, whether we have noticed it or not, our children are hungry for something different. They might do as we ask, but the world is different. And Mr. Day so politely put it, we are all of an age where we didn't have anything but traditional schooling.
That's true.
And everything changes. It's the natural course of life. And so we need to really change this environment for our children because they are waiting for us. They are waiting for us to allow them to really engage in really deeper learning across all content areas.
I want to hit both of the teachers here, Mr. Dixon. What are you looking forward to most when integrating this to your students?
I think that what I'm looking forward to the most is, being a facilitator instead of being a director.
Okay.
Encouraging them to explore, letting them figure out the world for themselves, looking at things through a global perspective. I think that's what I'm most excited about because that's the way that the 21st century is going. And if we can start them with that mindset at the lower level, 7th grade, by the time they become, responsible adults, you could really see some severe change, some powerful impact there.
Going the same with you, Ms. Robinson.
I think I'm most looking forward to is the students just really having an opportunity to have more of a say-so and being able to, again, identify areas where they want to learn or areas where they see as a problem, because one of the pillars of the Winton Woods Warrior Way is be a problem solver, be respectful, be safe, and be responsible. And I don't think there's always a lot of opportunities for them to problem solve because, again, as Mr. Dixon was saying, sometimes as teachers we say, this is the way you need to do it, you follow, where then they can bring to the table what they would do in solving it and give them more ownership, because then they really see like, hey, I make a difference, what I do matters, not just that it matters for Ms. Robinson, but I have a part to play in it, and I'm seeing that change happening right in front of me.
I'm going to throw this to the whole table. The key word on both ends there was respect and responsibility. Do you feel that we're going to see a step up? And if so, how does that affect your schools?
I think we will see a step up in that, and I think it just it creates a better culture for the kids and for the staff and for the parents, for everybody involved. And that's something that I'm big on culture, and I think that you have to like where you are, you have to enjoy what you're doing. It has to be meaningful for you, and I think project-based learning achieves that for us. I think it's going to create an incredible culture, actually, and a culture where a lot of great things will happen. So I'm looking forward to that piece. That's my most exciting part, looking forward to this.
Yeah, in fact, the New Tech Network, the term they have for that is agency. And so it's students taking active responsibility for their learning. And I do think that is a component that we're really going to stress at the middle school, so that not only are we teaching kids to be problem solvers like Ms. Robinson spoke about, but how to be a member of a team, how to autonomously get your work done, how to create interesting and appealing products that they can exhibit to others. So, our plan is to have parents and community members and business leaders come into our school to hear from kids and hear those presentations that they are, the ideas that they're wrestling with, that they're struggling with for that final finished product.
Obviously, a lot of this has to deal with collaboration. You're collaborating with a secondary teacher at some point. Obviously, the students are all going to be collaborating, and as a whole, each school will be collaborating with one another. Is this a difficult transition, or is this something that, and again, I'm going to throw this to the whole table, that you feel that is a necessity and will make you strive to be better, or in turn, make the district better?
Yeah, I think it's a necessity just because there needs to be a change, and we realize that, and we're out in front of that by doing this. So I think that piece is big. I think it is going to be difficult, and I think everybody at this table would say it is going to be difficult. And I think we all know that. We're not afraid of that. I think a lot of things, if there's anything worth doing in life, usually it is hard, right?
Sure.
So I don't think we're shying away from that, knowing that it is going to be hard, but the rewards that we're going to reap from that are going to be just astounding, I think.
I think the initial difficulty is just the paradigm shift. Going from a culture of isolation, I'm in my classroom, what I do is me. But I think there's a lot of excitement for the collaboration, not just building-wide, but district-wide. Mm-hmm. And I think when you have that excitement, the possibilities are endless.
And then with Dr. Holden, with opening the door to the lower levels now, mm-hmm. As the district, how do you feel looking forward now? Obviously, we've had a great success with the high school. Mm-hmm. Here comes this next wave.
This is probably the most exciting work that I've been involved in my career. And it's a little scary because it's so transformative. But I absolutely believe in it. I don't know how, knowing what I know, I could do anything else. And I think the district, under the leadership, honestly, of Mr. Smith, if it wasn't for his leadership and his vision, I don't think we'd be on this path. And I guess what I would say is watch out. Here we come.
Sure.
And this will be good for our children and good for our schools and good for our community. Very exciting work.
It sounds it. I mean, again, we have a great cast of superstars sitting with us today. I want to end with one final comment from everyone. Obviously, when you first heard of this, there's a little trepidation, a little bit of those bubbles in your stomach. We'll all be honest about it. But as you're seeing and you're getting ready to make that step and make that leap, are you ready? And I'm gonna start with Ms. Robinson, and we'll work our way around.
Ready or not. So I feel pumped up because I see myself as a visionary. I consider myself a leader. So I think I am going to be a good example for them. So when you talked about collaboration, they'll see a real life example of me being in a classroom with a teacher where our heads may bump, but we have to professionally and as adults figure it out. So I am ready.
Yeah, our whole staff, our staff is going to be a little bit different because we're going to have a mix of a couple of different things in our building because of the physical makeup of our building. Mrs. Robbins is going to have the opportunity to be with somebody all the time in a co-teaching type environment. Not everybody's going to have the opportunity to do that just because of the physical space of our building. But there is going to be that collaboration there too. So that's something that we've been working on anyway over the years. So we've been getting better and better at that. Our staff does a really good job of collaboration, and it's key. The biggest thing for me that is teaching the kids how to do this, and to be able to do that, you have to be able to do it yourself, so we have to do the model of that. Once we perfect that, everything will be just fine. So,
Mr. Dixon.
Yeah, I think we are ready. I think that the district is providing us with excellent PD and PD opportunities, and that helps alleviate some of the anxiety of the transition. So I think that, come first day of school next year, you're going to see a lot of smiling faces on teachers, and we're going to be ready to go.
Yeah, and I would concur with all of that. And mostly, I think our kids are ready. I've seen through my experiences at the middle school different teachers that have done project-based learning, and the way kids latch on to that learning shows me that project-based learning, the new tech network, our kids are there, and our teachers are there, and I think we're going to be very successful.
And Dr. Holden, I'm assuming you feel the same way.
We can't go fast enough, so I'm ready.
I was going to say, I think you were ready the first time we did the first podcast. You would have had it ready. You were ready for the whole thing.
I was ready then, that's right.
Well, we have made it to the bottom of our time together, and I'm thankful that we were able to gather together to discuss the great things that are coming. As I think you said it best, there are going to be some smiling faces come that first day of school next year, and I look forward to seeing that, and I look forward to bringing you all back to discuss that first day so that we can all see the change that has happened from what was to what is today. So I want to thank all of you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, I want to thank you for joining us as well. I can't do without these people with us. So again, I'm Jason Grzgorek, the host here on Warrior Supercast. Again, a place that the Winton Woods City Schools showcases their teachers and faculty and shows how they shine. Thank you and have a great evening.